Hi, beautiful souls. This is going to be a really quick video. If you have seen any of my modification videos, I'm just going to have a look at a newer version of Pixie's Astounding Lenormand and show you what I did to fix the older version that I had. So because this was a fairly inexpensive deck, I did reorder the deck. So you can see the color on the tin has changed slightly. So the new printing of the tin is a little more saturated. And we'll see also how that affects the cards. So the reason I repurchased the cards was, okay, so if you go back to some of my mod videos, you'll be able to see an older version, and I will try to do an inset of what this looked like before I edged them. So what happened when I trimmed these cards was they looked beautiful, absolutely stunning on this side because I cut the borders off from this side. And then when I turned them over, so have a look at the picture in the inset, you could see that the cards were not laid straight at the printer. And so I had a little white border along the edge. And so I was able to fix that up with the Sharpie. And so now I'm really happy with the way that they turned out. And I have these little subtle black borders. I need to try my Windex trick and wipe some of these. So there's a little bit of a smudge on a couple of them. But yeah, so I'm really kind of happy how those turned out. And so my intention was, if the trimming didn't work out, would I redo? Would I just, purchase the deck and use the new untrimmed deck? So you can see on the front of the rider card here, I haven't taken these out of the plastic yet, that the card is exactly straight or pretty straight on the border. And then when I turn it over, it looks pretty straight. So I'm going to open the cards and just double check that. Here's what the deck looks like trimmed and not trimmed. So again, I did put a little bit of a border around the front and the backs of the cards, and I did edge them in black to cover up what had happened when I trimmed the backs of the cards. So looking here at the new deck, so the new deck, just going through here, so the left side, it appears to be a lot straighter. So you should not have this problem. Sorry, just checking the other side too. Yeah, it looks like they've completely fixed the problem, which is amazing. Thank you, US Games. So yeah, so let's just quickly go through the cards and just see if there's been any other changes in coloration or something like that. And for those of you that don't know this Lenormand, this is Pixie's art, but it's not all from the tarot. Some of it is from her other art. And in this deck, when you get it, you get a few extra cards as well. So if you're a collector of her art, it's kind of a really fun deck to have in your collection. In the little white book, it does tell you where each of these cards come from, whether they come from the tarot deck or whether they come from other artwork that she's done, whether it was illustrated books or from a private collection. Really interesting how the moon was just sitting on the house in that card. I don't think I've ever noticed that. There is can you see it? There's just a little slight difference in the color in the new deck. Ooh, and that. It might be, I'm not sure. Let's kind of go like this. Yeah, well, it might be just because of the white border and the border not being there. Not sure. If there is a color change, it should be quite apparent on some of the cards. The blue does look subtly different. The gold looks very similar. So it's possible in the printing that the colors were slightly changed. But the artwork appears to have been left exactly. So here's an example of a card that does not come from the tarot. I believe this came from a children's book. It's really quite a lovely illustration. And so this is a really nice Lenormand deck. If you're just beginning to read Lenormand and you're comfortable with doing pairs or even 3-card readings, to bring this deck in with a tarot reading when you're using another deck with her artwork. It just looks really amazing. Yeah, I think perhaps the color shift is not even enough to mention. And like I said, it could just be the light or the effect of having no border. And that little dot you see here is probably from, I cut the cards with scissors, so I may have slightly nicked the card there, and then the ink bled into the edge of the card. I really like this garden card. And it's really kind of fun to, if you know this artwork quite well, and to not read the little white book and see if you can figure out where each of these pieces have come from. And if you know the RWS deck really well, you should be able to figure it out. And the other thing to mention too is that, and some of them come from multiple cards. So this heart obviously comes from the 3 of Swords card, and then the scenery in the foreground comes from a different card. It's a bit of a game. And when I first got the deck, I didn't realize all the answers were in the little white book, so I did try to figure it out, and I spent quite a bit of time trying to locate it. That's just who I am. And here's another one. So this is an extra card. Not from the tarot. Beautiful. I love that one. And this one as well too. So the gentleman card is not, it's not a page. You might think it was one of the pages, but it's not. The same with the lady. And then we have the sun, the moon, yeah, there's a slight difference of color with the blue, but it's nothing to affect. So if you don't have this deck and you want to trim it, know that the borders are now straight. So it should be a really straightforward trim job. Yeah, and then there's the last card, the cross. So I hope that has been helpful to some of you who perhaps saw my previous videos and has hesitated in trimming this deck. So if you get a new copy, it should be really straightforward. Or you can do what I did and then just cover up the problems that were on the back by doing an edge, just going over the edge in black Sharpie. And I think I just used the chisel tipped Sharpie to do that. And like I said, I noticed where it bled on one of the cards, so I'm going to go back and clean that up. And I have found that Windex, just for some reason, does that perfectly, especially if there's a little bit of lamination on the card. It just wipes away beautifully. So thanks for watching. Stay well, and namaste.